Hey everyone, welcome back.
All right. How you doing?
Happy Monday, happy October. Good to see you all. And first of all, I want to say, Zach, welcome back. Zach, you haven't been on the channel here with us we were just talking about this like 2 months,
Yeah,
it seems like.
it's been a while. I mean, it's something that I've been looking forward to, but the time has flown for sure.
Well, I know for a lot of members, society members here, you may know this if you kind of call in, talk to our team regularly. Zach has recently relocated to a state that I was teasing him because I was like, man, everybody's been leaving this state, but you're now a Californian officially.
I am. I am. It's been a while. It's been taking some time to settle in. So it is good to be back, I have to say. But yeah, it's been quite a move for sure.
Well, if anyone watching right now or on the right replay, I should say, is in California, Zach will. He's your guy. I mean, he's the guy. He's adapting, and it's going to be exciting. So we'll talk about that maybe later. Stay tuned for some announcements. But Zach, congrats on a safe move and everything. And I selfishly kind of want to come visit you out there. But so listen. Well, look, guys, tonight, obviously, as you can tell by the description below, this is the Outturn preview tasting of October. Tomorrow is the official drop, 1:00 Eastern time. And, to be quite frank, in a way, I'm still recovering from the gathering week. This is, it's been over a week now since we had sort of this epic YouTube marathon week from this past Friday. So first of all, I guess for everybody watching, what did you guys think of the gathering? I guess we can look at the whole week. I mean, of course, we did end it with an 8 or 9 hour marathon stream here on YouTube. What do you guys think of that? Do you want to see more of it? And we did some other streams earlier in the week as well. Mm-hmm. And man, it's just, I can't believe we're back already. It feels like it's a long time. That was definitely, it took a lot out of us as a team, but it was so much fun. And I just think we were just talking about this the Monday after, how much fun we had and how appreciative we are too of so many society members participating, coming here, of course, on YouTube, going to our breakout sessions we had on Zoom. It was so much fun. And Zach, you were hosting some sessions too in that week. What did you think of those?
Yeah, no, I got to join in on the sessions that we did behind the scenes with members, and they were a great time. It was just nice to be back with people again and chit chatting and drinking some whiskey. It had been a long time since that had happened. But the other ones, man, they were entertaining. I love just being able to sit back and kind of watch. And I have to say, as much as I love whiskey, I don't know how well my body would have held up to that Friday stream. That was a doozy for you guys.
Yeah. And Matthew J. Ryan in the house says, was a good day. Steve Balzac, I enjoyed it. Steve, good seeing you there as well. John Kroll says, the best part of the gathering was private audience with Her Highness, Jenna. Whoa. Jenna, if you're watching, Your Majesty over here. No, I appreciate you, John. I think you were there for pretty much every hour of the marathon, if I remember, if not most of them. So that was great to have you. Robbie Robinson says, love Patrick Harris. Yeah, Neil was fantastic. It was so much fun. We had a blast. If you guys didn't see that stream, go ahead and, after this, rewatch the replay. We had Neil Patrick Harris, well-known actor, name 3 different society whiskeys that will be released for the gathering. US exclusive for the gathering in 2022, just next year. So that was a ton of fun. And George Kaplan, good to see you, George. Enjoyed the gathering live stream, so I'm glad you enjoyed it as well. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We're obviously glad to be back. We have some real exciting news coming down the line, I should say. Won't get ahead of ourselves, but regarding YouTube and just our streams and more content for you. We hear you loud and clear. You want us to do more of this. And tonight, of course, we're doing the preview tasting for the release tomorrow, and I'm excited. Well, are you excited, Zach? I know this is your first in a while, but how are you feeling right now?
I'm just, I'm excited to get into this again, to get involved and being able to taste these. It had been a while since I had some new stuff, and it's nice when new stuff comes across. And I'm just I haven't tasted them yet. They arrived on my doorstep this morning, so it's one of those things that it's going to be a truly genuine interaction here between me and the whiskeys. So
yeah, it's I think people think our job is just this all day long, and because that's what it appears like. These are definitely the great moments for sure. But it's like a lot of other jobs. Obviously, we all work hard and Most of the time, we're not drinking whiskey, believe it or not. But tonight we are. And hell yeah, because I'm excited. It's fall, it's October. And this to me is when whiskey just tastes, it hits different. I think
this is the epitome of whiskey drinking season for me. This is just all encompassed. I absolutely love it. So I'm excited.
Yeah. So let me say this, everybody. If you don't have a whiskey in front of you, feel free to pour a dram or 2 or 3. Do your own mini tasting with us. We're going to go through 5 whiskeys. Yeah, or 5. We have 5 tonight. We'll taste through all 5. These are first impressions for us. We did I think each of us, we've pre-poured these so that they can have some time to breathe, sort of mitigate the neck pour effect for you guys who know that. But so again, first impressions for us, we were just talking about them briefly, but it's all new to us. And so again, tomorrow at 1:00 Eastern time, these are drop-in at smwsa.com. Of course, our whiskeys are available exclusively to members of the Scotch Malt Whisky Society of America. So, well, I should say you have to be a member of the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, period. But we release these for members in America. So if you haven't signed up, if you're not a member, you've been curious about it, it's really, really good time because tomorrow is a brand new Outturn. And so we have, what did we say, 14 different whiskeys coming tomorrow.
Yeah, there's a good amount, actually.
Yeah, really cool selection. What we'll do is we'll taste through 5. We'll go down the line. We've handpicked 5 of the 14 just to talk about taste tonight.
We're pretty good at handpicking these too.
Well, I think, but it's not. Maybe we'll revisit that and kind of clue you into what we go for. But I think the big thing, just to not to give too much away, is that so many of these whiskeys are fantastic. Like, I know it sounds biased saying that, but so many are fantastic. And oftentimes the ones that are the most exciting, you are sort of unassuming. Like, you don't even see it on paper. You're like, oh, that seems pretty common, but you taste it, you're like, well, this is just phenomenal. And those to me, I think, are some of the real most exciting experiences with Society whiskey. So we picked a few here and there that were like, I think these have real potential. We're stoked. But nonetheless, we'll be sharing the whole list of all 14 afterwards, and we can talk about this. And John Kroll says, what kind of idiot would not be a member of SMWSA? Well, okay, I'm not gonna do name calling here, but yeah, obviously I think Zach and I were members before we joined the company.
Yeah.
And so I think it goes without saying that we agree with you, John. Minus the idiot thing. So let's go to the first one. Let's go to the first whiskey. And let me pull up. I'm going to put the banner up as usual. Zach, you want to do this one first. And so I'll introduce it, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I am curious to hear my own thoughts here too. So let's get into it.
All right. So first one, guys, for dropping tomorrow is 91.29 Tales of the Expected. It's funny. I was just talking about how some of these whiskeys are so unexpected, and the name of this one is kind of puzzling. 11-year-old from the Spicy and Sweet flavor profile. Spicy and Sweet is the one signified by this purple color coding here. From Speyside, distilled in 2009, from a second fill ex-bourbon barrel, 55.9%. And I will say this, I think, Zach, you pointed this out. We wanted to start with this one because this is the lower ABV of what's to come. So
56, and it's the lowest thing. Here we go.
I'm looking right now. It is the lowest of the lineup. Is this 55.9%? So not for the faint of heart. But here we go. 11-year-old Speyside.
Oh, I would just say I love the fruit coming off of it, especially with such little barrel influence. That to me always, just showcases a good spirit underneath. For me, my personal palate, at least.
Yeah, super juicy, like really, really full. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think that we often think of the Speyside style, the core Speyside style. Mm-hmm. Of course, these regions in Scotland have, I feel like, are not constrained to just one style, but this core Speyside style, more often than not, is so think of like orchard fruit drizzled in honey. Mm-hmm. Very, very pleasant. And I think that's kind of a very word, but
that's a good descriptor here.
Yeah,
pleasant.
Yeah, this one, just the aroma is particularly juicy. A lot of orchard fruit, a lot of vanilla cream.
I'm getting like a small note of like drier grass, but mixed with like lighter red fruits as well. It It's like I would maybe even call it heather without smoke. It's just a nice balance of flavors that's not just overwhelming on one end, but not drying on the other.
Yeah. Obviously, this one's unpeated. So if you're not into the peated whiskeys, this is one that you might consider. Of course, if you're into peated whiskeys and you want something else, this is one to consider, of course. Very, very like a weighty aroma, you know, and as we get into fall, or we're in it right now, this is one that this is like a fall daytime for me. You know what I mean?
Daytime's the perfect time for this one.
Yeah. Not quite like a breakfast dram. We were on with, what was it, with Charlie McLean during the Gathering Marathon, and we were talking about, you know, it was morning time for some of us, particularly on the West Coast. Everybody tuning in on the West Coast, it was like 9 a.m. or something. I think it was 9 a.m. because we started at noon Eastern. Yeah, so we were talking about breakfast drams, and you know, of course, the morning is a really good time to taste whiskey because your palate's fresh. This has more weight and spice, and of course, it's in the spicy and sweet flavor profile, so that's sort of a heavier designation to begin with. Oh, really, really nice aroma. So first of all, cheers, Slancha, Slanjara, Kanpai, Salud. You know, however you say it, just raise your glass, and thanks for being with us. I'm going to taste this thing.
There we go. Oh, God. Wow.
Yeah, you go first, Zach. I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
That was a complete 180 as to what I was getting on the nose. Lots of cracked black pepper, some like oats. I mean, this is just like completely different. My mind is kind of just torn right now from the fruit to this. Wow.
Yeah, I definitely pick up. So we talked about the aroma, just the first impression. A bit weighty, orchard fruit, a lot of vanilla cream, but some underlying autumnal spices. I'm getting more wood, a little bit of wood smoke, but definitely more, just generally more oak influence on the palate. I guess that's not surprising, but and like sort of like a dampened oak. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? Yeah,
no, I mean, that makes total sense to me.
That's what I was thinking of when I tasted this. It's sort of like a damp oak, like after the rain. Or if Tom Smith were here, it would be a little bit of petrichor, perhaps.
It just rained for the first time since I moved to California. Crazy. Moving from the afternoon showers.
From Florida. Yeah. Prost, says John Bourne. Yeah, I think we've nailed cheers in, I think, a dozen different cultures and languages at this point. So well done. Really just a really, really pleasant Speysider. You know, I think it's probably one that I feel like would be easily to underappreciate in a lineup of really heavy, intense, smoky or wine cask. Gentler, second fill bourbon barrel. But we were talking earlier that we just sort of did a quick nosing, really quick. We hadn't tasted them, but we were nosing this and thinking like, wow, this has got to be a first fill bourbon barrel because there is so much flavor development or aroma development. And second fill, so that means the cask's been used to age Scotch whiskey once before, before it was used to make this one. So lesser cask influence, but still, I think there's so much flavor and just overall from the spirits. Yes, and surprising development for 11 years. So
I was not expecting this at all, honestly.
Yeah,
I was. It's
a tales of the expected. Tales of the expected. Tales of the unexpected. It's probably
too late. I'm a little disappointed. This is not expected at all.
I think it's too late for us to challenge the naming because officially everybody will be working on tomorrow.
Sending in an official letter.
Yeah,
I need your header, Ben, or else they're not going to pay attention to it.
Classic Speysider, with that sort of autumnal spice. A lot of Speyside whiskeys just in bourbon casks you think are really conducive to like the spring season, brighter, fresher. This one is a bit more mellow, a bit subdued. From a distillery, we really haven't seen often, and I can't recall the last time we did. So that's always exciting.
I can't tell you the last time I saw one from here.
Yeah.
So that's always exciting to me too. Trying new things, like I mentioned before, these are the first refresh of bottles I've gotten in quite a while.
Yeah.
And it's always nice to get something new.
Yeah. So we got some Californians in the chat.
I was gonna say I'm watching them pile up here.
You would think it's like, come on, it's 5:07.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's barely 5 o'clock here.
Everyone in California California has entered the chat. Jim says pouring rain from my drive from San Diego to Orange County this afternoon. Oh, okay. So Zach, you are in Orange County, right?
I am, yes. And I actually have had the pleasure of enjoying a cigar and a drink with Jim already.
Nice.
Fun story. The first time I left my house after moving here, like 2.5 weeks in, I went to the cigar lounge and I sat down and the owner was there chit-chatting with me and goes, "Who do you work for again?" And I just let her know. And she goes, "I think there's a member here." 5 minutes later walks in Jim, and was quite a time. It was a good time. So it's good to see you, Jim.
And a quick shout out, Scotch Test Dummies. Good to see you, Scott. Scott's here. Evening, Ben and Zach.
Yes.
And Steve Balzac says, I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area in the 1990s. Someone recently asked me if it's true that it sometimes rained back then. You know, it's funny. We're now we've moved from whiskey to weather talk, which is we go from a thing I love to talk about to a thing I'm not so crazy to talk about. But it is true that I think drinking whiskey when it's raining is like a great, great. There's real synergy there.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Bring in the snow or like the fall, the autumn leaves, and you're sitting outside with a nice breeze. Oh, we can dig deep.
Yeah. And Charles Grabitsky, hello everyone. Good to see you, Charles. It was good to have you on the channel. What was it, a couple months ago? Less than 2 months ago. And Larry Norris, Memphis, Tennessee here. Larry, good to see you. I'm just a few hours away in Nashville at the moment. So let's I should say I've added some water to this one just for anybody tuning in. Well, everybody's tuning in, but anybody who's curious how adding a little bit of water impacts the flavor. Because as I mentioned, this one is of course 55.9%, but it is the lowest strength of the evening, which is kind of wild to think about.
I've got to say, everybody here is being so nice about the intricate things in LA that I'm gonna run into. I appreciate all the insight.
People are so nice in California. I mean, I'd love, I think it's got its unique culture, but you know, which I like, some people don't like, but I love the people,
I've loved everybody I've run into so far.
Yeah.
Everybody's been awesome. Great. It's been great. And I saw you, Connor. Connor, hello. I'm loving California. Thank you for the welcome. John, I hope I don't wake up with a clown or a headache. A pet monkey would be pretty cool. I'm not going to lie, but.
All right. Adding a little bit of water brings out more fruit. For me, a little bit of vanilla icing, both on the aroma and the palate. I think I preferred it neat.
Yeah.
I think it brings out, generally adding water will bring out more fruity notes, more of the fruit, more of the oak. Yeah, I mean, that's personal preference, but I kind of liked it neat for anyone who's wondering. But let's move on. It's already 20 minutes in, Zach. We have 1 of 5 down.
Oh God,
we got 5. Dude, I'm so excited for where we're going. I mean, look, guys, we do these Outturn preview tastings twice a month, and I think the best part, we never talk about this, is just being able to reveal these is a lot of fun. I mean, selfishly. And it's so much fun when we sit here, we just taste these whiskeys, but we're kind of I'm eyeing all the glass in front of me. Okay,
I'm looking down the line.
I can't wait to see what everyone's going to say about this one.
I'm eyeing my dessert before I've even touched the salad at the beginning.
We're cruel. All right, so that's number 1. That's a very good start for, especially what we said, I think on point for the fall season. Number 2 is from a distillery we don't see as often, but I know some people, particularly in Reddit, get excited for. 78.45 Cause Stare from the juicy oak and vanilla flavor profile. Also 11 years old, which I think will be fun to taste these back and forth. Highland whiskey in this one from a first fill bourbon barrel. We just did an 11-year-old Speyside with spirit from a second fill bourbon barrel. Fresher oak in this one, but Highland whiskey, and I think the quintessential Highland style is a bit more earthy, a bit more rustic, not quite as sweet, generally speaking. But first fill bourbon barrel, we expect, I think, a really high intensity, or high concentration, rather, of flavors.
This one's pretty good, just on the nose.
This is
that concentration of flavors is straight up the nostrils. The flavors are just overpowering any sort of ethanol. I think I said it. I think I was nosing this one before the tasting, and I'm definitely getting a lot of marzipan on this compared to any of the other sweetness on the last one. Not as much fruit, but the sweetness is in a different category here.
high ABV on this one too, 63.7%.
I think this is the highest, from the lowest to the highest.
Maybe.
We make big leaps here.
Yeah. So very, very vibrant. Of course, I think the high alcohol content will kind of yield that, I think, outcome when it's very, very fresh, very vibrant. A lot of white peppercorn just in smelling this thing. But I don't know. Do you get that? I'm picking up not a lot of alcohol at first.
No.
You know, it's not because it was so mellow and fruity up front. But now as I'm getting deeper and deeper, I'm like, okay, it's just a wave of peppercorn.
Yeah. No, it's like you. It's like that exhale you have when you're having like wintergreen gum, where you don't get it too much right away, but then once you kind of breathe out, you get all of that spice and that heat. And not in a bad way either. It's that like refreshing heat for me. Oh. I'll say here, George says hello from Estes Park, Colorado. He's going to be having some really good drinking weather here shortly.
Beautiful, beautiful aroma. Not as spicy and autumnal as the first one. A bit fresher. But it doesn't have that orchard fruit element to it as much as the first one. I don't know. It's more tropical, but then it's also, there's a little bit more like dried grass, more sort of an earthy. So that's really wild when you think about it. Is with this like orchard fruit, spiced apple pie whiskey, and now we have a Highland. It is not as fruity up front, but not the classical orchard fruits that you get from a lot of malt whiskeys, but you do have this sort of tropical note plus this underlying earthiness to it. So the duality, I think, is pretty surprising.
I'm quite surprised. I think the little bit of time in the glass too has really helped that open up a lot.
I'll show the bottle again.
Oh,
yeah, I agree, Zach. I think, and as I go back, it's more evocative, more enticing. We were talking about the name Ka Stare, so we were trying to figure out, like, what, that sounds familiar. Ka was if you guys know the Jungle Book, really old film, before you were born, Zach.
Listen,
okay.
I might have been born.
before a lot of us were born. Ka was the end. You can call him the antagonist of the film. He was the large snake. What was that? I forget, python or boa constrictor? I don't know. But
yeah.
And he would hypnotize everybody like with his stare.
With his stare, yeah.
So, does this whiskey put us into hypnosis? I don't know. We haven't tasted it yet. But
that's true.
But it's really thought provoking, at least just based on the aroma, which I really like.
And just to clarify, I was born for the re-release of this. Thank you.
Okay, the re-release.
Okay, no, but the first one was like in the 60s.
Yeah. And so everybody in the chat, if you were around for the original Jungle Book release,
Ben's calling you old, so remember that.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and taste this. I'm gonna taste this neat, even though it is 63. Yeah. Was it 63.7%? Wow.
Wow.
Okay, so why are you saying wow? I think because of the same reason I was about to say it.
I was gonna make a comment on the ABV and how it blends in for me, and it kind of sneaks up on you as you let it sit on your tongue. But I really think it just was a nice backbone for some of those fruity or lighter flavors.
The approachability is surprising.
Yes,
I would say. And I was sitting there as you were saying, wow, I was like, wait a second. Have we just been doing this for long enough where it doesn't hit me like it used to? Or is it the whiskey? Or is it sort of that there's so much going on that it really just sneaks by you, which is true with a lot of whiskeys that we certainly see at the society. Definitely strong, but got a lot of flavor from just that
It
neat pour.
really does. That was like the first thing that hit me was like fresh on the palate and just flavor explosions. Creams, almost like those hard like caramel cream candies that they used to have, where you got a little bit of creaminess, but then there was some of that caramelized like vanilla flavor. That's what it really reminded me of. And then that alcohol kind of crept in, but it was just kind of outlining the flavors more so than it was like, hey, this is a 64% alcohol. So this was really nice.
Yeah, I'm going to add some water still, but I don't know that I feel like there's a lot more to be discovered that in this alcohol is probably masking some of it. But I was surprised at how enjoyable it was to eat. And a couple things. Daniel H. asked, is there a limit on this bottle? Not that I know of.
Probably not.
No. None on this one. And I just appreciate Dale chiming in with some of us were around in the 60s. Thank you, Dale. Of course.
The
were.
OGs.
Of course you were. Many society members were probably around at the original release of the Jungle Book, not the re-release, Zach.
All right.
But
yes, Jim said Werther's. That's what I was thinking of.
Oh, just the overall flavor, like that.
Yeah, it was like, it wasn't like a massive wave of like cream or creamed milk or like icing or anything. It was more slow release of the flavor as it kind of sat on your tongue.
This is so good with some water.
I just dropped mine in.
Oh, sorry. I want you to experience it, but I'll just tell you, the first whiskey, I think I commented, I preferred it neat. It depends on the individual palate. So we're doing this as an exercise, just knowing that some of you don't like to add water at all. And a lot of you like to add water to all your whiskey. So just and that's quite frankly how our whiskeys are chosen by the tasting panel. Everything is scored neat and then also diluted and scored both on the nose and the palate. This one for me, I think is blossoming now with a little bit of water. What do you think overall? I
think the finish was really amplified with water. It kind of just stayed on the palate and just slowly went down. I'm one where sometimes water, the first sip, the alcohol is amplified because it is all just come to the top of the glass. But other than that, I mean, on the nose, I'm getting like God, I'm trying to think of it right now. What's that banana pie? Banoffee pie. I'm getting big banoffee pie vibes, and I love banoffee pie.
While we're at this, Evan says, still haven't had a 7.8 from SMWS. This is on my radar for sure. It's the first we've seen in, I feel like, over a year. I could be wrong by that, but
we just recently released 2 actually, and Pickley do mention one of them. We had the wine finish from, it might have been the Highland Festival, but then we also had one that was hats off to Mr. Ross.
Oh, that's right. Okay. But before that, I feel like there was a long
before that time. Though.
Yeah.
I don't know. I had seen one in the 2 years I was here.
Yeah.
So this has been a nice little clump of them, and they've all been different, which is what's been really cool. I think one was sherried, one was wine, and now this one is just straight bourbon. So this, if people have picked the other ones up, I think this one next to those would be super cool because it's going to show the variation in flavors from the same distillery, and I'm pretty sure they were all around the same age. But
very bright, very fresh, very fragrant, a little bit floral, tropical fruits, but also like some earthy, more rustic undertones. A lot going on. Hypnotizing. I think that's the indication by the name itself.
Oh yeah.
But again, I think just a lovely whiskey, and obviously really strong too. But that sort of escaped us.
That's hitting me. I can feel that alcohol working for sure. That's but it's not a bad thing. It's not like it's not putting me on my butt. You just feel the good vibes already.
Sorry, I'm knocking over all of my toppers that are just I got all these things going, and all these glasses are everywhere. I'm surrounded by whiskey glasses. Let's go to number 3. We got.
Sounds like a major
have
first world problem to have, Ben.
It is a good problem to have, but it's still a problem. Let's go to number 3. We got 3 more to taste here tonight. Then we'll reveal everything that's coming out tomorrow. Again, just a quick reminder: drop in tomorrow at 1:00 Eastern time at smwsa.com. You can also call our team over the phone. Phones get pretty busy at 1:00. Very small team. Everybody's trying to answer. So, give us a call if you'd like to, but just know that at that time it is a little crowded. Mm-hmm. But you can of course order online at smwsa.com. Mm-hmm. Zach, you ready for number 3?
I'm already sniffing it. You're
ready for the next 3. So this one we picked. Oh, I'll just say this: we were talking earlier, Zach, about how we chose 5 of the 14 that are coming out, and we want to do the 3 that are sort of similar on paper a little bit, not even that similar, but just things that were all different flavor profiles, but the cast specs were all somewhat similar, to really just compare and contrast the outcome and just, I think, highlight the differences. This one is of course different distillery too. It's 28.57 scrambled heather, and I think part of can you see that? No, the reason we chose this one is it's in the spicy and dry flavor profile, and that is something we just for whatever reason we haven't seen a lot of casts in spicy and dry. And when we were doing the marathon, the gathering marathon stream, I know when we were talking through the flavor profiles, many of you commented about the spicy and dry flavor profile being something you really enjoy and having a hard time finding it. And we confirm that yes, we don't see those as often. So here you go.
There's one right here.
28.57, youngest one, youngest of the ones we've had so far. I'm not going to reveal. I'm not going to reveal the ages.
But it is the youngest one we will have too.
Okay, you just did reveal. I was just saying I'm not going to reveal what's to come, but so Zach did reveal this.
I'm not saying what they are. I'm just saying. This is 8 years old. They could be 9 and 10 for all we know.
So here we have another Highland whiskey that we just had, a bit younger, first fill bourbon barrel, 60.5%. So the commonalities really are just that it's Highland, the region, which is massive, geographic region in Scotland, and then from a first fill bourbon barrel. What do you think? You're nosing it right now. What's your first impression? And how does it compare?
Absolutely love what's different from the last 2 to this one is the barrel influence on this one for me really stands out.
Yeah. And what of the influence? Like what are the sort of the notes that you're getting a lot of?
I'm getting a lot of more what is that stupid word I'm thinking of? Like vanilla extract, where it's pretty bold, but it's still vanilla at the end of the day. The spices really come to baking spices are super heavy for me on the nose. There's a small fruit in the back. I can't really put my finger on it, but there's a small fruit note in the back. I'm going to think more like red or blue fruits or black fruits versus stone fruits or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of sawdust in this one. I think that's sort of the dryness of it. A little bit of sawdust, a little bit of heather. Oh, duh. The name is scrambled heather. That's kind of fun. That's kind of fun. I was looking over the bottle thinking, wait, right? I was like, wait a second.
I'm gonna say it's just super heavy too. They're super concentrated flavors, but the whole. I haven't even tasted it yet, but essentially, let's call it nose viscosity. It's just full. It's in your face, but they're good, bold flavors.
I think if I picked this whiskey up on its own, one night or one day or one morning, whatever, I just went to grab a whiskey, grab this off the shelf, I would have that experience with it. But in a lineup with others, and I'm not just trying to pat ourselves on the back here for doing this, but I feel like because the differences are very subtle between the other bourbon barrel matured whiskeys we've just had, I think this one is really shining more so. You know what I mean? Yeah. I feel like it would be easy to underappreciate, I think, what's going on right here in the glass without the context that we just had, which was a bit more classical and familiar.
Yeah. I would say Daniel Duggar says big cereal malt forward. I wouldn't say this is really malt forward. I'm not getting a lot of grain. I'm not tasting that young malt by any means.
Okay, I was just gonna say it's pretty malt forward, but what sounds
For
like
you,
yeah, it sounds like we're having
really?
a different. I mean, look, everybody's
Yeah.
palates are different. I got more of this, more of the malt than again, and I'm instantly putting it in comparison with the others that we've had so far. I'm getting more of the grain. It feels it smells more like a distillery, like a working distillery would
I can
than
see
the
that.
other two. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a you don't pick up sort of like the farm influences as much, but like
No.
I feel like you're in a working distillery. And I like the comment here from George who says sawdust is man's glitter. You know. I know a few women who also like sawdust just as much. Her Highness Jenna, as she was labeled earlier before. But yeah, but it's a lovely note, I think, for a whiskey that just sort of really, I think, solidifies what we like about it, which is the earthiness and the rustic sort of overall profile.
I can agree with the grain now that I've tasted it. That's definitely come forward. I'm getting a lot less of the baking spices. That barrel influence is kind of taking a back seat. But this is, when I think cereal or like grain forward, I think those like super young, like 2, 3, 4-year-olds, like corn based whiskeys. This is not like that at all.
This is wildly different from other whiskeys. Of course, it is a bit younger at 8 years old only, but chalk, just a sort of fresh, sort of cracked barley, a lot of sawdust, and just really intense oak. Not that it's spent so much time in oak, and it's thrown off the entire like spirit, but you took that's like you take a bite of oak, throw that in there, put that in your mouth. It's like I do get some of that like fresh.
I would almost say, and it's obviously with the name of what it is, I can almost see, walking through a field of heather and just ripping a handful of it and just kind of chewing on it. That's kind of what I'm getting, where it's it's grainy, but it's drier and a little bit of spice. But I think it's really more evocative of the environment itself than it is like the bold flavors of heather and smoke and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about application like of this whiskey. Who would enjoy it? Obviously, everybody has different palates, and if you like the drier style, this definitely is. But I keep going back to this thing of like working on a working distillery. It feels like there's a little like it supports like physical labor. Like it's a laborious whiskey, if that even makes sense. Like it's not one to sort of sit back in your leather armchair with the fire. I mean, you certainly could. You gotta kind of, you're not gonna be.
You're out in the shed and you're building a deck or something.
I was gonna say you're not wearing synthetic fibers. You're wearing like cotton and wool, and come on,
you're wearing some overalls with one of the overalls, thrown behind your back. I mean,
it feels like that. You know what I mean? Like it tastes.
It's like a working person's dram. Like you said, the laborists. That's a really good way to put it, man.
Yeah. So, and I think it's the antithesis of a term that I don't particularly like, that's used often as a luxury whiskey. It's not. This is a bit more. It's just not. It's the opposite of that. But tasting it is a luxurious experience, if that makes sense. Like it's pretty cool because you don't get these whiskeys like this often off the shelf.
No,
like this raw and intense. So it's a bit of a luxury to be.
I think though it's raw intensity really kind of wears a disguise well. Whereas like it's not burning your nose, it's not overwhelming your palate with heat. It's just it's a let's call it like a doctor in scrubs, tatted from head to toe. You can't look at it and see what it's going to taste like. You have to actually experience it to really understand what's all underneath it.
Yeah. The finish really not threw me off, but I was just not expecting that, how dry and intense it was. And that's not like it's, off-putting. It's just
No.
wild and vivacious. And I saw Alexander, your comment here. Zach's making it sound like a bit like a hayride whiskey into the season. Right, exactly. You know what I mean? Like that. It is a hayride of a whiskey.
Oh yeah. Like hayride through the pumpkin patch where it's, cool out and you got the small breeze and there's hay on the ground. I mean, like this is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a neat, like you said, it's a neat comparison or side by side to what we previously had tasted today. I'm gonna add water to it. I'm a little nervous, but
you're nervous. Oh man, adding water I think definitely softens the edges a little bit. That intense finish is not nearly as intense. I think you get more sort of natural malt sugars, I think, on the palate.
So there's more dried fruits on the nose, actually, like dried apricots and stuff.
Yeah, it's not fresh fruits. There are fruits there. I agree. It's definitely dried. It's not very floral. I'm just trying to put it in context for everybody. Well, what do you think of it with water or without? Do you have a preference? Or
I think with the water, that jolt of alcohol hits you right away and then disperses and leaves behind all the flavors. I'm almost getting more like purple florals along with those dried fruits now, whereas before it was a lot heavier on the spices and the heather and the hay and that kind of stuff. So I would almost take that, it is still dry, but I think there's stuff there to kind of, complicate things a bit. So you're not just, trying to get some saliva going. I actually preferred this one with water.
You do,
surprisingly.
Yeah, I was pretty open with the first two. The first one I didn't prefer without water. The second one I preferred with water. I like both, and they're very different experiences. Of course, it depends on how much water you add. I added just a dash to this, maybe 2 ounce dram, but I think this just I think evokes the beauty of cask strength whiskey. It's up to you as the person enjoying, or if you own the bottle, or if you're enjoying the whiskey, you have the freedom of choice here. And I like both. You obviously lose that intensity by adding some water in this one, but it's a bit more refined. And I think it's probably most people would prefer it with a little bit of water.
Yeah.
If you like really raw and really intense, you have that if you so choose.
Oh yeah.
When poured neat. Now, as I'm sorry.
I'm excited about the next two.
Yeah, I was going to say, as we're really harping on the fact that this is a young wild whiskey, and now where we're going is a completely different direction. And I saw a comment earlier, I think very early on, about, I think, Dale, was it you perhaps? Forgive me if I don't quite remember, but I think it was the a whiskey that you had poured at the beginning.
You did. That was one of the first comments that I saw.
Yeah, was it? I'm guessing Dale, and if it wasn't you, I apologize. If it was someone else, I apologize.
Let me see.
No, let's go back. You can't go back that far.
Oh, we can't go back that far. Oh, darn YouTubers.
Nonetheless, I think
you guys are being too interactive.
Zach, no, we're being totally vague and suspicious. Nobody knows what we're talking about. Dale, if it was you, please shout out. If someone else, please let me know. Someone had a whiskey that was similar to this one coming out. I was excited to hear.
It was 2 casks after this one, actually.
Oh, released before, but filed after. Yeah. Anyway, let's just.
I'm already. My nose is in it. I'm sorry.
Look at these comments here. Joshua says, "Pete." 24145. No. I mean, people want to guess what this is.
Let's give them a little guessing game. Anybody?
Show the glass. A darker whiskey,
for sure,
than anything we've had tonight. And I haven't really done a great job of showing the other whiskeys, I don't think.
Provin's really going for a 33. It's definitely not.
Oh, you're shooting down the questions.
I saw someone else say 33, so I don't want to get their hopes up.
All right, let's just do the reveal because I just
said Fireball.
Yes.
Welcome to the new Scotch Malt Whisky Society.
And Alexander says, is it distillery 30? And you know what? It absolutely is.
Ding, ding, ding.
This is 30.115.
Oh my
A
God.
Knight Errant's Banquet, 23-year-old Speyside whiskey. Obviously, red suggested it's a deep, rich, and dried fruits flavor profile. The Mac Daddy of the flavor profiles for some, but for others, it's just one of 12. No, I'm just teasing. I know a lot of members get into the deep, rich, and dried fruits, but interesting whiskey here. So, I know the banner doesn't really specify this. 23-year-old whiskey right here. That this was in fact double matured. It spent time in 2 casks. First 21 years were in a ex-bourbon hogshead, presumably a refill hogshead, gentler cask maturation for 21 years. And then we transferred this into a fresh first fill ex Pedro Jimenez, or Pedro Jimenez for all my Andalusian friends out there, which is also known as PX Sherry cask. So Speyside and bourbon wood for 21 years and a fresh PX Sherry cask. And obviously those 2 years, I think the influence was significant. Look at the color. Just if that is any indication, obviously has extracted a lot of the sherry from the wood, and just nosing it, this is.
I'm just saying,
intense.
This whole tasting was worth this bottle alone. I know it's tough work, but this is
okay.
I feel like I just walked, and I don't know if you guys do it or if you let your significant others do it. This reminds me of walking in to like a Michael's or a like Joann's as soon as fall hits and those massive cinnamon brooms just smack you in the face. That's what this reminds me of.
Dude, this smells like you got smacked with the Nimbus 2000. Like this is
a cinnamon Nimbus 2000.
This is seasonal. I mean, here we are. Zach, you're in California. I'm in Tennessee. It's not that cold in either of these places, but damn, this is a fall whiskey right here. And can I get an "oh man" in the chat? Yes, we can. Pickly Do says "oh man," and that's exactly what this one is. Also, great profile pick, Pickly Do. That's highly professional, Zach. I think we need to step up our profile pick games.
I need you to hook me up with your headshot, people, Pickly Do, because I need some magicians to work my headshots.
Yeah. Let's get into this one right here. So ABV, let's see.
You don't gotta force me. I'm gonna get into it.
Close to 60%. I mean, for 23 years old, it's it's retained a lot of strength, and I love that when you have an old, complex whiskey that you can still enjoy at a high strength if you choose to, or add water and make that whiskey last a bit longer. And
Pickly Do says he loves those brooms. They hit him at Home Depot the other day, so I'm glad I'm not alone. Jim says perfect for Thanksgiving. I would almost say this is perfect for Thanksgiving if you're serving like some pumpkin pie at the end. It's like the perfect pairing with that pumpkin pie for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't even eat food. I would just drink this whiskey, and I haven't even tasted it yet. So
that's fair.
You can go Zach's route and pair it with pumpkin pie, or you can just, say, you know what, save the calories. I'm drinking this whiskey all night long. And I think it's just such heavy sherry influence. You have an old, stately, very mature, sort of, I think, worn leather, a bit of wintergreen spices.
Like, this is your armchair whiskey.
Yeah, we talked about how, the previous one, a young, sort of spicy and dry, how that was so intense. Hayride, workers whiskey. This is definitely one to just pause a little bit, just pause, slow things down, and focus, because this is just, and we haven't even tasted it yet. Just nosing it, it's so well balanced.
For my, I don't know if there's any GBB fans out there. I'm a huge British Bake Off fan. Black Forest Gateau, right here in a glass. Some cherry, a little bit of chocolate, nice spice. Oh,
Zach, you're like starting to talk like a Californian. You've got your own little thing going on, your own culture. I have no idea what you're talking about. But
it's Great British Bake Off. It's a baking thing.
We have a lot of Californian members here in the chat watching tonight. So appreciate you, first of all. Zach is your guy. And I feel like if you guys know what he's talking about, support him.
Please.
Have you tasted it yet?
Yeah, they're gonna kick me out otherwise. So you guys
Have
got to
you-
keep.
yeah. Free for hashtag free Zach. So let's and I just saw a few comments. First of all, I saw this funny comment. I got to highlight here. Gregory called me out for being surrounded by whiskey glasses. So many beautiful faces.
Thanks
I don't
for
know
the backup,
if the beautiful faces refer to actual humans or all these glasses that just look multicolored and beautiful in that sense. But appreciate that. And question, and I was thinking about this as we're going into this. How does this compare to the cask, also deep, rich, and dried fruits from the same distillery that we just released last week for the gathering? And
Mine's in the closet.
all right. I'm going to just grab this because I do want to do a little side comparison because I was thinking about this. This was actually part of the reason we chose this one tonight. I know a lot of members have ordered this one last week. And not to get, just to keep things straight here, this was what, 30.108, a taste of home, gathering exclusive cask for the US only. And this is a 12-year-old full term in a Spanish oak sherry butt. So younger, more intense, more vibrant, very, very spicy.
I was going to say the spice is what really is the big distinction here for me is the spices.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm actually, if you don't mind, just indulge me. I'm going to pour side one because I don't know, I'm really down with this whiskey from last week. First of all, I haven't even tasted this new one yet, so forgive me, everybody, just for enduring this little comparison. But right away, night and day difference. Night and day. We have full term 12 years Oloroso sherry, which is dry, nutty, spicier. Then we have a 23-year-old that's been 21 years in American oak, gentle maturation, and then 2 years in first fill Pedro Jimenez sherry. Now Pedro Jimenez is fruitier, it's sweeter. Think of like sticky syrup, viscous. Exactly. Viscous. Think of prune, like prune juice, as it's been referred to. The two whiskeys, of course, I have different amounts in the glass, but still, you really, really get the difference. I'll say right away between the PX sherry, that viscous prune juice, sticky, sort of sweeter sherry, and the nutty and dry Oloroso sherry. But you have this 12-year-old whiskey that's super intense. Spanish oak, of course, very spicy, a bit tannic almost. And then we have something that's much, much more mellow, a bit more reserved, more leather, and more, I don't know, just overall, it's not as in your face is what I'm trying to think about how to say that. You know what I mean?
I'm like 4 sips in, and I'm really glad this came today because otherwise it might be like half gone by now. I mean, it's just like, that the spice, it really takes a backseat to it, and I'm really getting those big PX, descriptors that you would find figs and, I would say brandy, your like nice holiday baking spices like this, a little bit of cinnamon, but then it brings back to like the chocolate and the red fruits, the cherry, the black Gâteau that I mentioned earlier. I mean, like this is just full blown bakery, like chocolate bakery, I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely hits you on the palate. It's a bit oaky. So it has as mellow and subdued and deep as it is at first, very much alive on the palate. We would say 58.2%. So that's really high, as for a 23-year-old. And it's very different from what you would get off the shelf of a 23-year-old Speyside whiskey that's been matured in partially matured in sherry cask. There's more character, So
I just added some water just for the heck of it, and it kind of brings out more of a caramelized note. I think like a gooey, still melted caramel, maybe like a caramel apple. I haven't tasted it, but on the nose alone.
I have. It's and the question was the 30.117, another whiskey from the same distillery 30 we released. That was the old Indignia Flight favorite profile. Because this is in deep, rich, and dried fruit, is this one fresher? I think this one, just for context for members, if you've ordered casks from this same distillery in the past or recent past, The sherry influence, I think, is heavier here, whereas perhaps, forgive me, I'm going off of memory now. Whereas the other comparison I just did right now, like in front of me, this one definitely is more intensely sherried. You agree with that?
And that 3117, that Dram of Gratitude was one that, like, I wish I had someone to buy that for, because it was just that good. But that one is a much more like relaxing in an armchair. You've got a cigar. Its flavors are much more subdued. The spice is not as prevalent. The waxy, gooey, sticky, like PX was not as prevalent. Whereas this is all of that in one bottle. The younger age, it's actually lower in ABV, but I think that freshness of all those fruits and that viscosity is really shining through more so here than it did in that one.
Yeah. And we keep going back to, like, do you sit in an armchair for this whiskey or not? I mean, you definitely could with this one. I think that other one, Dram of Gratitude, the 30.117, is probably a bit more mellow, and not the flavor is not as intensified. But this, in the context of everything we've had, this is a real, this is a whiskey you just want to pause time for a moment and really just go in a quiet room. It's not a social whiskey, like where you're just having, unless you're surrounded by, whiskey enthusiasts such as yourself.
Doing the same thing as you.
Yeah, talking about the whiskey, but you don't want to be talking about the weather or the markets while drinking this whiskey. I mean, you certainly can, if you're a baller, but realistically, you'd be missing out on what's going on in the glass. And there is a lot. There's a real character to this whiskey.
I don't even want to pour it out. I just want to drink it all.
Yeah, I think this is. I haven't added water. I'm going to add water.
I actually am impartial on this one with water. I enjoy it both ways. I might add water if I'm drinking it a little earlier in the day. Granted, it's not even 6 o'clock. But if it was more of like an afternoon dram, I would probably add water. Otherwise, if it was like a relaxing late night thing, I would take it neat.
Yeah, I mean, comments about this one versus that one. Listen, at the end of the day, they're all different, and they're all going to be different for different ways, for different reasons to different people. So, our flavor profiles, we try to, obviously we have 12, and we constantly analyzing them. Is that the right number? Every whiskey that our tasting panel picks, we'll categorize it into one of 12. But of course, there are variations within each flavor profile, and the lines that we've drawn, because you have to draw lines. But there are some that we're tasting this like this can be either or. This can be Old and Dignified. This could be deep, rich, and dried fruits. It's a bit ambiguous at times, because we all experience different things with different palates.
Yeah, I would say the biggest distinguishing bit between the two is the 117 was just a bit more mellow, which might have pushed it out of that deep, rich, and dried fruits realm to the Old and Dignified. But otherwise, I think the core flavors were pretty dang similar here. So if Alex said, I love the 117, so this may be its replacement. I think if we're talking in terms of single cask whiskey, this is about as close of a replacement as you can get, while adding a layer of difference to it at the same time.
I'm going to show the bottle again. Look, I would not to make this sound like QVC, but look, guys, I think this one's still available from last week. The gathering at 30.108, that Taste of Home. Two very different whiskeys. If you can swing it, if you like the deep, rich, and dried fruits or sherry matured, and I would pick up both. I mean, because it's going to be a long winter. This is a great cold weather whiskey, and they're so different. You know what I mean? And I just think that's amazing.
I like the difference between this one and the 108. Actually, that 108 being still available. They're two. If you want to try Oloroso versus PX, this is a perfect showdown of what the two different sherry casks can bring to the table.
Yeah. Man, this is amazing. With water, I think I don't know. Like, honestly, like kind of tired of hearing myself talk about it, but I also am tired of talking about it because I just want to drink more of it.
I'm going to continue to talk about it as long as I can drink it.
No, it's just so good. It's just so good. I'm trying to say it without, I mean, everybody, we try hard on to make it sound like we're biased or, like we have a lot of great whiskeys coming out. So
yeah,
this one really is just special. Of course, if you have whiskeys of this style, you like it, this is a good replacement, or or go with something else. But man, spot on.
I've got some threats here. People are trying to kick me out of the city if we don't have Pete coming up next. So as much as I want to keep talking about this, I think we might have to move on to number 5.
Let's go to number 5 because 1, it's time, and you're right, Zach. I think the people have spoken. But 2, because I have been really excited for this, and this is one I am judging on paper. I haven't tasted it, and but when I saw it, I said, "This is the whiskey I want to taste." Of course,
you too. Beforehand, I was so excited when I found out I'd get to be tasting this.
Yeah, so this is number 5, last one in the evening. We'll go ahead and after that we taste this one, we'll reveal the full lineup for tomorrow.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I think we've heard from society members in America and around the world, the love of peat is real, and we've also heard the love of whiskey from Islay is. I try to say that with as much as Gaelic as I possibly could. Islay. How about that for a Midwesterner? But we know that the love is real.
We try. We're bad with accents.
Islay. And Stuart says, I bet 29.
You guys have been spoiled.
That's a good guess, Stuart, because there are 10 working distilleries at the moment in Ireland, 9 currently producing, or 10. I'm trying to think where we're at right now. So the odds of picking one are not nearly as bad as if you were to pick Speyside, for instance, where 50% of all distilleries in Speyside, but it is not 29.
It's not. It's not 33 either, and it's not sherried. I'm just going to keep shooting you all down.
But I want to give a quick shout out to Alexander, who may not have everything spot on, but he's been pretty close, because this is of course 3.324. Now lightly peated, it's sort of, oh man, this LED light and this light green is just not in here.
Let's see if
there we go. Better. 17-year-old Islay whiskey, lightly peated. Okay, Zach, fine. You just hold it up. You're whatever is going on.
We have better cameras here in LA. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Also double matured. So a double matured Islay whiskey. First term was what, 15 years? Let's look this up.
I didn't even check that.
No, I did. I think it was 15 years and forgive me, everybody. I'm gonna check the exact time, but first term was spent in 14 years. So 14 years, first 14 years of whiskey spent time maturing in a bourbon hogshead, pretty standard cask for Scotch whiskey maturation, American oak, of course. Then we transfer it for the final 3 years into a first fill STR barrique. STR is shaved, toasted, recharred. And while it does not specify here on the label, presumably this is likely French oak, red wine cask. And, if it's not French, it is of course some sort of wine. Look at the color on this. It's not a sherry, but it is darker than the whiskey we just had previously. This is the darkest of the lineup. Again, if color tells you anything at all. And if there's one thing I know, I guess I like, that I know some like, it is a peated Islay whiskey in some sort of wine cask, which is really, really unique. And I think some distilleries maybe are more conducive to that type of wood than others. And I think this is spot on one of them. Something you don't see too often anymore at all.
Oh. I could smell this for days.
Yeah. This is super musky. It's earthy, it's musky, and I'm just going off like a couple nosings here. A bit of salinity, but man, that the wine influence really changes the profile.
If you would have given me this whiskey without telling me any sort of information, I would have guessed at least either a specified Burgundy or Bordeaux aging, just from how strong the red fruit is and how dark the whiskey is. It is just in your face, and I love that. So I'm very much enjoying this. That wine is really, after you get that, you said the musty. There's a little bit of peat. It's. Ben couldn't wait to drink it. Yeah, I'm trying.
I'm done. I'm done with this now.
All right, let's go. Time to go.
I can't. I have nothing to say here that's productive. It's bringing me back to whiskey. Again, you don't get this often or much anymore, especially with the popularity of whiskey from Islay. Acquiring casks from Islay distilleries is more difficult than ever before for everybody, not just the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. But man, this is something that's just, yeah. I think it's a whiskey. Man, I'm really struggling with this one because it's so good. So good.
This is a really very unbiased review based on personal experiences.
Yeah, I haven't had a whiskey like this from the Scotch Malt Whisky Society in about 3 or 4 years. This is just to speak, and we bottle unique stuff here. We're in the business of finding weird whiskeys, just weird and good, used interchangeably. This is just something I haven't had from this distillery of this casking at cask strength in a long, long time.
I'm even going to go as far as saying that this age really adds to it as to why we've never had it before. I have not seen something this old come out of any of those distilleries from Islay, with the exception of maybe 29 in the last 2.5 years. And I genuinely think it has benefited it in every way, shape, and form.
Let's get into the whiskey more. Let's try to describe it a bit more. I know we're just sort of going on and on about how good it is, and I want to just call it, Charles asked a question, how many bottles in the US? So this one in particular, dropping tomorrow again at 1:00 Eastern time, will be released along with 120 bottles in total. Minus 2. Zach has a bottle. I have a bottle. We've had to open these, and obviously for this evening, had to. But
I know I'm struggling.
So 120 bottles have made its way to the U.S., and so obviously a couple less than that, which is on the higher. That's a higher allocation for our whiskeys. Typically, you'll see them around 70, 90. So we do have more of this one, and
I'm gonna say too, because of you guys, particularly as members, there were only 251 bottles of this out of the cask. So for us to get almost half of those speaks just how much we do what we do to get that whiskey for you guys. So you can thank Tom for that, because Tom has to work his magic. But this is I'm speechless, which is rare.
Because it was asked, I felt that I must do it justice. There was another one released, 3.314, previously for a festival, Islay Festival, Lounge Course, Stave, Exoticism. Similar casking as well, if I recall. And 15 years, a bit younger than this one. This one, as we're just nosing and tasting, it doesn't remind me so much of it.
If I remember correctly, I only had a little bit of it. That one had a lot more of the salinity and peat forward notes than this one did. That one really just showcased a little bit more of Islay, whereas this one reminds me more of a wine sherried Islay.
Dude, that one's so good too. That was such a good whiskey. Hey, you're saying that, I think you're spot on. I'm tasting it there. I'm going off. You're going off memory, but you're spot on. This one, this 3.314 that we released for the festival, is fantastic whiskey. Oh, it's so good. Definitely more of the maritime influence, more of the Islay spirits. You're absolutely right. This one here, bit more time in the wood, more time in the SGR wine cask, and so it's warmer. It's yeah. It was. It's just like I don't want to talk anymore.
I don't either. I just want to. Hey, cheers. We'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Bye.
No, this is not watch Ben and Zach just act like assholes. We have to really articulate this thing. But going back to this point, I mean, we're obviously the theme is it's October. It's Oktoberfest. It's the fall. This is a lot of Islay whiskeys. The peated Islay whiskeys are really cold. Like they evoke a sense of the temperature, like actual frigid temperatures. This is a very, very warming whiskey. You do have a little bit of the salinity, and you're right, Zach, not as much as the one that we released previously. Totally unique whiskey, and also 56%, so decent ABV.
Yeah. On that one. Sorry, John. John said I haven't seen much spitting. Are you guys wasted by now? No. With a lot of training and a lot of forced drinking, I think my liver has put me up to this challenge, if we want to call it that. I'm going to try and go back to the basics, like we said, and talk about this whiskey. Yeah. The nose, there is no water in this. It's about half gone by now. But that nose, I really am getting more of kind of a coastal influence versus that any medicinal, iodine. I almost, when I first smelled it, this is a very particular tasting note. If anybody out there has had the Meunier Bordeaux from Bunnahabhain, that meaty wine-based like heftiness of that dram is really kind of evident here for me. Just on the nose. There's a bit of, I don't know if I'd call it sea salt air, kind of like a wispiness about it. It's just, I think it's just an all around, there's layered flavors in here. I mean, it's a full package. It takes you on. This is one of those where if I were to sit down and read someone a story and they close their eyes, like that, this whiskey does that. It really gets you into a situation where you can think about an experience. That's what this really does. And that's just on the nose. Oh my God. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I would love to hear them because this is transporting me elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's absolutely delicious. And I think it's special. It's always special when you can find a whiskey, of course, that's unique, but it's consistently unique. And what this distillery puts out, the core spirit is, in my opinion, heavy orchard fruit, really unique sensation on the mid palate, a bit cold, ashy. The phenol, the peat. The peat smoke influence is very subtle compared to your classic, the typical Islay malts from the varying distilleries throughout Islay. But so I think when you dial down the peat a little bit, you get more of the salinity and more of the maritime character. But of course, as we've said earlier, even the salinity and that maritime character is a bit muted because of the wine cask influence here, the STR cask, shaved, toasted, and recharred. So this is interesting because there is a heavier dose of the wine influence. It is warmer, it's richer, it's not as cold as others, but even going through into it and having a few sips now, it still retained the distillery's core style. And I think the effect that it has on the palate and that ashiness and how it just sort of dissipates on the palate, on the tongue rather, and then the finish, it becomes smokier in the finish.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, then it's just like a whisper of smoke at the end. It's such a beautiful experience. I mean, it's a privilege, absolute privilege to obviously enjoy this whiskey. And that is in no way, I don't mean that to dismiss the others whatsoever. Those were all phenomenal for no reasons, but we really had, I think, a good variety of experiences. I think the first three that we had were sort of younger Highland Speysides, fresher casks, unique and all subtly different. And we've agreed that those were whiskeys that you sort of just like, you're doing something, you're active, you're out there in the daytime, it's the sun. What better? I mean, I love going on like a hike and having a whiskey sitting down after a hike with a friend. and like having a dram. Those whiskeys were great for that. Maybe these whiskeys were not. And then the last one we had, the sort of the sherry Speyside, very just more calming evening dram on the front porch while it's raining, which I guess it's doing today in California. And then this is one where it's just harder. It's hard to pinpoint the environment and setting. You know what I mean? It's not like you're there standing. You drink Islay whiskey, you're like, okay, I'm standing on the edge of the Atlantic, blah blah blah, with a bonfire on the beach. I'm like mocking myself here, by the way, guys. I'm not poking fun at anybody. I say these things, so don't. I'm just taking a dig. This is like, come on, how many times are we gonna say that?
I'll push this and keep what you just said in line here. This is almost like one of those drams where if there was a mountain peak overlooking all of Islay, you would be standing on that mountain peak where all of the different influences kind of slowly make their way up to you, to where you get most of them, but you're not in the fire, you're not in the pit. So you're really just getting, the best parts that make their way to the top. That's what I would almost.
The Paps of Jura. You'd be on Jura,
standing
across, looking at Islay, and it's so good, dude. It's so good. It's really, really good. I'm kind of at a loss, Billy. At that point, definitely a whisper spoke. I haven't seen calls out if you're quoting when I said it.
And I want to point out, Daniel says, "Make Moynier a devil." No, that was a kick in the ass. Pardon my French. Like, that pour was so youthful. That reminds me of the first three we had, where all of its character comes from Islay. I mean, everything about it. The ash, the oils, the old tractors, those Band-Aids. I mean, that one was true fashioned like Islay whiskey, heavy peat, all in your face. This one reminds me of the distillery release of the Moynier Bordeaux that they came out with. And it's actually faded off as it sat in the glass. There's not as much of that red fruit. It's more of those orchard fruits, but with the body and the oomph of the meatiness. It's just so different.
So let's wrap this one up, and honestly,
mine's gone.
Oh, yours is gone. You know what? I just said to wrap this one up. Have you added water? I haven't even added water. Real quick. It was so good, neat. Like it's our fifth whiskey of the evening, so our palates are already warmed up, but. And this is like why I do it. This is why I've gotten into this, man. It's just the little moments that remind you, like.
This is why I fell in love with whiskey.
Yeah, this is what it's all about. And for everybody, for you guys in the chat, don't take that as this will have the exact same effect on you, because I don't want to. I want to set the realistic expectation here. For me, this reminds me of what it's about, and that's a really special experience. And I think, and if you can have that with this whiskey that we have, that's amazing. So I'm hooked again. Let's go. I want to share the full list. So tomorrow we're dropping the what do we say, 14 different whiskeys. Here's the whole list. We just tasted 5.
Yes.
All right. So let me go ahead and share this. So here we go. So again, 1:00 Eastern time tomorrow.
That's pretty.
I'll keep this up for a minute. You can take a screenshot if you'd like. Revisit this. Of course, everything is available on a first come first served basis. So you might want to be swift at 1:00 Eastern time tomorrow. But here's the lineup. Really good variety. I think just some standouts. We have a 107 from a first fill sherry butt. I know that's there as well. Pretty wild. We have, I'm trying to read this. It's so small from my vantage point. 4.277 a punch and a pout. Seems really, really cool. We actually do have another one from Distillery 4 right now. It's similar age. And so if anyone's had that, it's a really cool opportunity, I think, to compare and contrast to similar casks, the different flavors that come from each. Zach, any others on this list that kind of
The only thing that I want to point out is that top one, that 9.206. Do remember that is our bottle of the month for our bottle of the month members. So when that does come around, there will be very few of them available. So if anybody is eyeing that, that is one that will not have many available right off the bat. But I'm loving, you pointed out that 4.277, a punch and a pout. It's nice to see these coming around. The 4s were super popular, and to be able to have access to many of them, especially different age ranges, is really exciting. The 107, I have not seen many first fill sherries of, so that's cool. I know Her Highness would back me up on this. Anything 112 has been exciting for me in that 10 to 13 year range, so that's always fun to look at. But everything here is exciting. I'm loving the variety that we have coming out this month between flavor profiles and distilleries. A couple distilleries we haven't seen in a while. A good spread of flavor profiles. A little bit of everything for people. And I mean, what, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 peated whiskeys.
I was just going to say, I was looking at this. I mean, you guys, this is where the season comes. We are entering peat season, and we try to make every month. We try to offer a good variety of different whiskeys, but now we do tend to save a lot of the peated whiskeys, or at least a greater number of them, for October or November, December, sort of last 3 months of the year as it gets colder. One correction I want to make, I've just noticed here on 53.365 Firecracker Roll, about 2/3 of the way down. What is it? 9-year-old Islay. The cask type is actually, seems to be an error there. The cask type is not Islay. The region is from Islay, but that's from a refilled American Oak ex-bourbon hogshead. So that, and interestingly, lightly peated flavor profile. So typically the 53s, we of that age, we tend to see sort of a heavier or heavily peated or just standard peated. So that'll be really, really interesting. So yeah, 2 Islay whiskeys, 5 peated whiskeys altogether, and yeah, pretty excited.
Hey, if any of these California guys want to pick up that 53, please do. I'd be happy to come taste it with you.
yeah. I'm sure.
Market research, of course.
And I do see a question here from Stuart. Is the 4.277 also from the Distillery 4 experimentation that led to dining by the harbor? Yeah, so it absolutely is. We did, so a bit about that whiskey, a bit atypical from our conventional approach with all these single cask whiskeys. For that one, we did combine several casks. It's a 20-year-old whiskey, and after 17 years, we combine a few 17-year-olds together from the same distillery, effectively producing what you'd call a single malt now. So they're not single casks; it's combination. And
the Arcadian Pizzeria is it's very, very similar to.
Yeah, so we took those same cask type, we blended them together effectively, and then transferred them and filled different types of casks to develop further and absorb different flavors. And so yes, so it is similar.
The other is actually still on the site, available. 4.271. There are about 2 dozen bottles left, but these are to the exact same age, cask type, and it's both from the same experiment. So
yeah. So that's it. Take a screenshot, and I'm gonna remove this. So yeah, that's the full list for tomorrow. Hope you guys are into it. I mean, I got to tell you, obviously we had a little bit of a love affair with some of these whiskeys here tonight, so I couldn't keep that a secret. And it's just spot on, man. This is whiskey weather coming up here, or I guess we're into it now, and it's just whiskey's good all year long. Don't get me wrong, but this is just where I think where more whiskey moments take place. I think get together, you get outside a little bit, and it's just really, really special spirit to experience at this time of year. So, Zach, any closing thoughts? I mean, from you for headed tomorrow, and anything you want to?
I mean, I'm just going to say this has been one of the most exciting releases in terms of variety. Distilleries, regions, flavor profiles. this kind of stuff really gets me excited. Seeing distilleries you don't see too often, seeing profiles you don't see too often. It's all in one, and there's such a good range of prices and age. I think this is something that is really going to hit a lot of people's interests because so many people can join in on it. I do only have one available phone line, so do cut me a break tomorrow. If you guys call, just keep calling. We'll answer it as soon as we can. As Ben mentioned earlier, obviously online, so long as you know your login, feel free to go on there. You should be able to order on there as well. But I'm excited for it. This was awesome.
Yeah, guys, again, just a quick reminder, if you're not a member yet, obviously these whiskeys are available exclusively to members. So if you've been thinking about joining, I guess it's a good time. It's it's the eve of the Outturn release. So
it's a good time of the year.
It's a good time of the year, yeah. But listen, tomorrow's Outturn day. So if you've been thinking about it, it's about to release. And some of them do move quickly. So we just suggest that if you like what you see, if there's a few here that, or at least one of them that really speaks to you, just based on our experience that we're sharing, you might want to jump on it at 1:00 tomorrow Eastern time. So, yeah. John Kroll says, "Thanks, guys. You are my favorite SMWSA couple." Okay. Well,
love it. Glad we're a new couple.
We're a couple.
Come up with a Hollywood nickname for us. Why don't you, while you're at it? Might as well. What do we say?
Back.
Zen.
Ben and Zach.
Back.
New Zen. Old Zen. I like Zen. We're Zen.
Yeah, we're Zen.
Well, it's been a very, very Zen experience with you, Zach. Glad you were able to come back.
Yeah, I'm glad to be
here. We
here.
all missed your face. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. It's been you just really been amazing. The whole gathering week was fantastic, and we owe it all to you. Always looking for feedback on what you'd like to see more of course, on the channel in terms of content, live streams, you name it. So, we raise a glass. Cheers, Slancha. Prost, kanpai.
Let me just pour a little bit more.
Salud. Okay, rub it in to everybody at home who doesn't have the whiskey. And
you guys all have to wait at least 5 business days like I did to get it. So, with that said, hey, cheers.
If you're on the East Coast. All right. Cheers, guys. Thank you all.
Guys. Thanks for coming.